a library-sized crowd. I just went and heard the Carl and David Little talk. It's just about the same number of people. Thank you very much. This room is filled with a tremendous amount of sentiment right now. We have 3 of our longtime artists here. I have a son, a daughter-in-law, a daughter, some of our oldest and dearest friends, the Greenfields there, some colleagues from town. This is quite a lovely crowd. And I just want to introduce you to Susan Hagberg, who is sitting right there, who has, believe me, every artist needs a partner who's supporting this project. It's a difficult way to make a living. It has a lot of interesting travel challenges, and Susan is very supportive. Okay, I don't want to say all the things that Rob was going to say. He's going to tell you how we got to be an artist. But I will tell you that late in the season, possibly even as late as October of 2003, Rob Hagberg showed up in the little gallery. I was finishing up my 8th year in the gallery, and I had a pretty good handle on things I might be interested in adding to the collection, and there's a lot of serendipity in this world, the right person, the right moment, the right mood. And Rob had been doing art shows on the island. He's from Minnesota for several years, but decided that he'd like to come and paint and take photographs and not spend his time so much setting up art shows, although people do enjoy talking to people at the art shows, and I still have people from 16, 17, 18 years ago who remember Rob from the art show. He showed me a few pieces of work. He, at the moment, was finishing up a one-time show over in Blue Hill. He was the 4th of 4 really, really fine artists. The other 3 were dead. And I can tell you that if an art show has a living artist in the company of very fine deceased artists, that living artist already has some weight to his or her career. So that was an impressive little point. He said it was a one-time event, but he was not represented in Blue Hill. So I said, well, it's late in the season. We'll start in 2004. And he asked me if he could leave a few paintings over the winter rather than getting them back to Minnesota and back to me. And I said, fine. We put them in the closet. People know that I'm rather irrepressible about dragging out my treasures. I think my memory is within 1 week I had pulled out and sold the largest painting in Rob's set. So that was a very auspicious start. I think when I first met Mr. Hagberg, he had already won several major national awards for his Acadia work. I think he had already won an Oil Painters of America Award of Excellence for a fine Acadia painting, and he had already won the first prize in an artist magazine competition. And he may have won others, but those were the 2 big ones that I think he won at that point. Over the years, he's had many, many, many honors to his career. He is invited to judge shows. He recently was invited to become a member of the American Society of Marine Artists, which is a very specific body of work, but it was his Acadia surf scenes that got him into that. He's been a wonderful professional person to work with, and he's a wonderful person, and his work has been a marvelous, marvelous, very, very strong addition to the gallery collection. And we are now, not counting the edge of 2003, we are now in the middle of his 13th year with the gallery, I think. And I'm going to turn it over to Rob. Thank you. And thank you, everyone, for coming. This is a pleasure.
Thank you, Amy, and welcome to everyone. It's not hard standing here to understand what I mean if I were to say I'm an artist. I mean, after all, my art is hanging on the wall along with all this other beautiful art. But the question really becomes, what does it mean to be an artist, to become an artist? I don't mean by virtue of the fact that you draw or paint that you're an artist. What does it take to really get to the point where you feel that you can say, I am an artist? I didn't always feel this way. I remember back when I was 5 years old, on the kitchen wall, my mother hung my artwork along with my sister's. And I remember in 3rd grade, my daffodil cutout of construction paper on the bulletin board with all my classmates. And as I looked at them, I went, wow, mine's one of the best ones out there. When art became an elective, I elected to take art. And I was very fortunate to be in a school that had a very good art program. I had 2 hours of art every day of my high school career. And I was even more fortunate to have an art teacher, I get choked up about this, named Mr. Harold Winkle. He was the best teacher I ever had. There was something about Mr. Winkle you just didn't want to disappoint him. He would introduce us to all the masters, and we would have to do a project that was in the style of Picasso or Rembrandt or Monet, and it was a wonderful education. I remember doing an oil painting. I was really excited about it. It was a sky that was orange with the setting sun reflected in water and the silhouette of a man standing on a dock. And I thought it was just cool. I went up, set it on Mr. Winkle's desk, and I said, "How's that?" He said, "Okay." Okay? Okay was not good enough. I took it back. I was frustrated. I was angry. I sat down at my seat and I wiped the whole painting off and left this smear of orange and a hazy silhouette. And with my anger really going, I took tubes of oil painting, red, and started filling in the sky with the swirls that transitioned to orange and then yellow and then the white of the sun. I took that painting up to his desk and I said, "Here, how's that?" He said, "Great." I didn't know it at the time, but I learned a valuable lesson that day. I thought of going to art school. My parents, however, really encouraged me to get a liberal arts education. I went to a small liberal arts college and got a double degree with a double major in psychology and art. I was looked at art as a way to keep my grade point average up. I went on after college to go to graduate school and get a degree in counseling and human development. And then spent the next 10 years in the mental health field. Most of that time I spent working with the chronic mentally ill until I got so burned out. I really questioned my mental health. Now there are two good things that happened at the end of that 10 years. One is I learned I didn't want to be in the mental health field anymore. And the other, the best thing that ever happened to me was I met my wife, Susan. I found a new career in film and video production. And for 15 years, I did lighting and camera work for film and video. In the business, we had this saying of, it's better than working for a living, and it really was. I was introduced to so many people and businesses, from 3M Corporation in Cargill all the way to mom and pop mink farms. And I learned so much. And it was a creative outlet. I did lighting and camera work. It was my job to make beautiful pictures on the TV screen. What could be better? Art? I kept thinking, you know, maybe I should pursue art. And I did 1 or 2 paintings a year, usually for a Christmas present or a wedding present, something unique that you wouldn't otherwise get. And I kept going to Susan every once in a while saying, maybe I should pursue art. And I kept doing this periodically until she finally called me on it and said, when I think of people who are artists, I think of people who are really passionate about what they do. And I just don't see you as being passionate. Oh, that hurt. But she was right. Now, if she were finishing this story, she would say, I didn't know you could turn on passion, but he did. I consumed art magazine and absorbed books on painting techniques and artists, and I painted more. I painted in acrylics in a style that's known as photorealism. And the more I painted, the more I wanted to paint. Until I went to Susan and said, you know, this film and video stuff, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. Oh, what do you want to do? Well, I want to paint. You know, I don't want to look back on my life and go, I should have tried. Okay, go for it. I've got a good job. Susan has been my biggest supporter in many, many ways. She's also been my gentle critic. And she says, oh, that's okay, or that's nice. That's not good enough. Shades of Mr. Winkle. Without her, I wouldn't be standing here today. Now, those books I read, one of them encouraged you to enter national competitions because it's the best way to get your name out there, and you're also really up against some of the best artists. So I said, sure, why not? I'm entering the big one, Arts for the Parks, the largest competition of its kind at the time, a $50,000 grand prize. Sent off the image, got the letter back, deep breath, open it up. Congratulations, I got in. I got into Arts for the Parks. This is huge. Am I an artist yet? Well, not yet. But there was a problem. No, not with the show. That was wonderful to be in that competition. It was with this style that I was painting in, photorealism. I would spend 150, 200, more than that, time painting a single painting. I would get so tired of that painting long before I ever finished it. I knew I had to make a change. Susan said, why? I said, just trust me, I know. I began painting in oils. And I did what is called painting alla prima, which means one sitting. So whether it takes you 2 hours or 10 hours, you are done in one sitting. Now, it wasn't very good to start off with. I had to work at it, but boy, did I learn a lot. Now, I still wanted to enter national competitions, so I fell back on my more photorealistic style, sent another painting off to Arts for the Parks, got the letter back, and said, thank you very much. You know, when you put your heart and soul into something, that gets rejected. It's disappointing. For me, that disappointment turned into despair and doubt. Am I really any good? Fortunately, that moved to anger. Gosh, darn, that was a good painting. And finally, resolve. Next year, here, how's that, Mr. Winkle? I did get into more Arts for the Parks competitions. This time I went to the reception at Jackson Lake Lodge in Grand Teton National Park, and I heard a couple who were artists talking about making a living as artists without being in galleries. how's that? So I kind of slid into the conversation and said, how do you do this? They said, well, we're part of a small group of 35 artists who do shows at the coastal towns of Maine during the summer, and that's how we earn our living. But wow. Now, I'd given up doing arts festivals, all the work that goes with that, putting up a tent. But I thought, wow, here's an opportunity. How do you get into this? They said, well, just submit a resume to us, and we'll see. Well, they juried me in. So the next year, I was off to Maine. I had never been to Maine before. And when I saw Acadia for the first time, I was awestruck. What a marvelous place. For someone who loves to paint rocks and water, I was in heaven. Now, I want to divert a little bit here and talk about painting. Because painting doesn't start with a canvas on an easel. It starts when you go someplace and you see something that just, wow, is that ever cool? I gotta paint that. And you'll do a sketch or a little painting study, take photographs. That's what you take back to the studio. You decide on a size and you begin painting it in, adding color to it, roughing it in, adding value to it. And at some point, it's just that right touch of color or that, just that brush stroke that says, there it is. There it is. This is going to work. This is going to be what I want it to be. Not what I'm looking at, but what I see. I remember doing a painting that from the very beginning, it worked. And I called Susan up on the phone. I said, Susan, it's magic. And I'd paint a little more and call her up again. It's magic. I kept doing this. I'm sure she got kind of annoyed with me after a while, but when I finished the painting, I called her up and I said, this painting has painted itself. It's just been magical. Its magic, along with a painting called Evening Dance, was entered into Oil Painters of America. For those of you who don't know, Oil Painters of America is the largest organization of its kind dedicated to the promotion of representational art. They got in. They both got into this show. I was thrilled. Now back to coming to Maine. The second year, the first year I actually came here, I didn't have a single painting that was from Maine. And yet I did well enough to pay for the trailer I bought, cover all my expenses, and have some money in my pocket when I went home. So the second year, I had paintings from Maine, and I did even better. The third year, I did better than the second year. Now after the third year, the board of directors of this little organization decided to change the bylaws, and you had to be from Maine to be in the show. But that didn't matter to me because something had happened that year. A painter friend of mine and I went to Argosy Gallery and met Amy Sidney. Now, I'm going to remember it a little differently than Amy told it to you, because I remember walking in the gallery and my artist friend saying, oh, we're both artists. And Amy said, well, I'm not looking for anybody else. To which I replied, well, I know of your gallery and I just came here to see the work and what you have. And she said, well, what do you do? Which I took as an invitation to tell her who I am. Now, you remember that thing about entering national competitions? Well, I've been in a number of Salon International shows. I've been in and am currently in the Arts for the Park show, and I've been in both national and regional OPA shows. Oh, okay. Do you have any work that you could show me? Sure. So I brought in 6 paintings and lined them up. And this is probably where we differ a little bit, but Amy looked at them and went, oh, that's nice. But I really shouldn't like anybody else. But I do like that one. And she went on for a while. Now, I say it was 10, 15 minutes. I'm not sure what she would say. To me, it felt like an eternity, but she finally said, could you leave these? Absolutely. I came back 2 days later, and she had sold one the day before. That was the beginning of my relationship with Artists at Gallery. Now I want to take a moment to tell you what a treasure you have in Amy and Artists at Gallery. I've been in a number of different galleries, but Amy is the gold standard. Not a one of them has ever compared. Amy has a degree in art history. Amy knows her clients, and she knows her artists and is loyal to them. She has a folder probably about this thick on everything I've ever done. Amy, you're a treasure and I love you. Now, Amy knew I had given this talk to the Cincinnati Art Club, Becoming an Artist. And she asked me if I would do this presentation here and add a little bit of how Acadia played into my career. I was happy to do it, and when I started thinking about Acadia, the more I thought about it, the more I realized how important Acadia National Park has been to my career. Now you remember that painting, Evening Dance? Well, it won an award at that OPA show. So I entered it into Artist Magazine. 10,000 entries, 3,500 of them for the landscape category alone. And Evening Dance was first place. Now, does anybody recognize that place? Yes, do I see any? It's Otter Point, right along the coastal road. It took me 10 years to qualify, to apply for signature status with Oil Painters of America. That 10 years was filled with paintings from Acadia. Other national shows that I have been in, Acadia has been well represented. Just this last year, American Society of Marine Artists asked me if I would join their group. And I was in their, you can't see it, but that's me. I was in their regional show that just finished up at the Minnesota Museum of Marine Art. And I have a painting that I just sent to them for the national show that will be going on a year's tour of 6 different museums around the East. In 2012, John Stern, who is the curator of the Irvine Museum in Irvine, California, told the publishers, Fresco Publications, who are out of New Mexico, to contact me to represent Acadia National Park in the book that they were publishing, entitled Art of the National Parks, historic perspective and contemporary interpretation. I didn't know Jean Stern even knew who I was, but he knew my work from Acadia. It was work in my portfolio to Oil Painters of America that helped me gain signature status on my first application, which is why on any paintings that you'll see along with my signature are the initials OPA. There are about 250 signature members out of a membership of 3,500. So it means a lot. Am I an artist? Wow. If I had been able to see into the future, when I started off this, I would have said, yeah, wow, you made it, you're an artist. But I think there's a truer measure. For me, it's like the actor leaves you in tears with their portrayal of a character. Or a musician whose song just keeps playing in your head and you keep singing it to yourself. Or the writer whose book you get so engrossed in that you finally realize it's 2 in the morning, I gotta go to work. It's being at a family gathering at my home. And the talk comes around to traveling, and my daughter says of her husband, Jeff's never been to see the mountains. And my 4-year-old granddaughter, excuse me, taking her father by the hand, walking him over to a painting and saying, look, Daddy, there are the mountains. When someone says, I can feel the mist in my face, or the way the light falls across the field, it's so beautiful. Or I can hear the thunder of those waves crashing against the shore. To me, I am an artist when you